Hi, it's Laura at Aquamarine 18 Tarot Books. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. Welcome. I am here with a VR that I haven't really planned too much, so maybe more rambly than even is usual for me, but I am feeling a little bit inspired, I guess. So this is a VR to Heather of Bookish Downtime, and I'll link Heather's video below that this VR is in reference to. Heather made a video talking about star rating books on YouTube, or maybe star rating books kind of online in general. And she finished her video with a kind of question of whether she should come up with her own star rating system that she can explain in terms of kind of what a 5-star book is for her versus a 4-star, 3-star, and so on, or if this would not be so useful because, you know, it makes more sense to just get to know what a booktuber is into over time. And this really has left me with much to think about because I am a person who has come up with a 5-star rating system and has articulated it and written it down and posted it publicly, and I don't think it's very useful. So this ending question of, you know, should I come up with this star rating system or would this be not that useful? My initial thought was like, totally come up with one. Also, it's not that useful. And so I wanted to kind of unpack that a little bit. So I will also link my Goodreads account below. I have a 5-star rating system on Goodreads on my profile, and it explains what I think constitutes a 1-star, 2, 3, 4, and 5, since of course on Goodreads you can only rate books in terms of a whole star, unlike Storygraph, for example, where you can have 0.5s and so on. So my review system on my Goodreads profile right now, word for word, is as follows. 5 stars, fantastic, a lot to love, and definitely recommend. 4 stars, great, really enjoyed it, would recommend, and would read more from the author. 3 stars, okay, I liked it well enough, I thought it was fine, I might recommend it to someone I think might love it, might have a few reservations or criticisms, which a review would make clear. 2 stars is didn't necessarily loathe it, but didn't like it either. Maybe found something good in it, but found more to critique than to like. Possibly problematic. Review will detail if this is so. And 1 star, either horribly written, horribly offensive, or both. Definitely would not recommend. And review will provide specific reasons why that is. So that's my 5-star rating system. Now, I felt, I think at the point that I made this, the need to do so to contextualize my Goodreads reviewing. I am not sure that anybody looks at it. I suspect not, insofar as I don't spend much time, if any, looking at other people's Goodreads profiles, even people whose reviews I read routinely. So I really don't know if anybody has even seen this, you know, much less found it in any way insightful into what I say about books. Heather's video made me go look at this again and drew my attention in a way to the fact that in my 5-star rating system, for 3 out of the 5 possible star ratings, I have included in my description something to the effect of, oh, and my review will clarify. So my star rating system, which I wrote quite a long time ago at this point, is structured in such a way that it is contingent on my also writing a written review for the system to work, right? It's like the 5-star rating system knows that it is insufficient, or that I, you know, was perhaps thinking at the time, this feels insufficient. And so built that in. I've looked at a couple of different star rating systems that other folks have and have seen, different ways that people qualify their star ratings. And I find these really interesting now that I'm looking at them, because sometimes folks will include things like whether or not they're likely to reread something. As someone who almost never rereads anything, this is not something that even would have crossed my mind when I'm looking at someone's rating of a book, that's what they're thinking. And so I'm left with feeling like coming up with a 5-star rating system was a fun activity that was completely pointless. I've never thought to really make a point of sharing star ratings here on YouTube. I do rate books by stars on Goodreads and on Storygraph. I also use a spreadsheet to track my reading. That one also has a star rating column that I will fill in, and it generates all kinds of fun graphs and visuals to show things like star averages over time. So I am using a star rating system of some sort because I am giving star ratings to books. I almost never, if ever, mention what those star ratings are when I talk about books here, though. And Heather's video has me wondering why that is. Because I generally do star rate books. I feel like maybe on something like Goodreads, the star rating is almost more like a heading than it is a part of the review itself. I do review every book I read on Goodreads and Storygraph with an actual written review. I include content warnings if there are any. I sometimes write a lot, sometimes I only write a little, but I do write something about what I thought about the book, what I liked, what maybe didn't work for me. If I have criticisms of the book, which clearly my rating system suggests I frequently do, I will write those as well. And the star rating is sometimes a little bit of an afterthought. Looking at my statistics, I give a whole lot of things a 4. And 4, again, is great, really enjoyed it, would recommend, and would read more from the author. I like making TBRs, as people know. I am a pretty intentional reader. I don't tend to pick things up just at random too much. And I find the more intentional I am in terms of picking my reads, which can sometimes be, mood-based and other times for readathons or just kind of something that I'm interested in, I tend to like what I read. Getting a 1-star book is not particularly common for me. I give a lot of 4 stars to the point that I wonder if my star ratings, again, are meaningful, right? Because if a huge percentage of what I read is all the same star rating, then I don't know. I don't know how useful that is. And I don't know how useful it is in a kind of aggregated format where, for example, at the end of a given month, I'm recapping here all of the books that I've read for that month, and it's like 4-star, 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 3-star, 5, 4, 4. I don't know that it conveys anything useful. So at this point, I think I might keep I'm going to keep the star rating system on my profile, even though I think nobody looks at it, and even though I think that it's probably not that helpful. And even though this year already, there have been multiple books that I haven't been able to even fit into my own system. So a couple of examples that I think go to some of my issues with the 5-star rating system in general. I read Marcus Aurelius's Meditations this year. I read this in the context of taking a course on Hellenistic astrology and learning more about some of the dominant philosophies at the time in ancient Greece and Rome. So I could not give a star rating to this. These meditations are a journal that Marcus Aurelius, the 16th emperor of Rome, wrote with no intention of anybody ever reading, certainly with no intention of them being published in any particular way. Giving it a star rating feels a little bit ridiculous to me. What I could have given a star rating to, though, is Robin Waterfield's presentation of this particular material. Robin Waterfield has put in a lot of clarifying footnotes and an introduction and a preface and a section on some recommended reading. There's a lot of kind of framing material. And that, I think, is 5-star worthy. I think that it's really a well annotated edition as someone with some background in philosophy. It's kind of, ancient philosophy is not my specialty by a long shot, but some background in philosophy. This is well done. I have no idea how to articulate that in a book rating system of 5 stars. Right? I also just finished another one that I am in some ways surprised that I haven't given a star rating to, and I'm still kind of thinking about. And that is Jalgren by Samuel Delany. This is a work of science fiction of sorts, dystopian, certainly. It is 800 pages long. It was written in 1974, first copyrighted. And I've read Samuel Delany's work before. I've read his fiction. I read the novel Nova. I really enjoyed it. I also have read some of his autobiographical writing, which I think is absolutely fantastic. I gave 5 stars to one of his autobiographical works last year, I think. Or maybe even early this year. I'm not sure. Probably last year. This I couldn't put a star rating on. And I couldn't put a star rating on it because I felt at the end of it torn between the fact that I feel like it is a book of literary merit. Samuel Delany is an excellent writer. He's someone whose work I appreciate for all kinds of reasons. I once got to go to a Zoom call where he was being interviewed, and it was so good. And I really like his work in many ways. I struggle to say, in my own rating system, will say a lot to love, definitely recommend with a book like this, because it is so content warning heavy and at times so difficult to read for extended stretches of the 800 pages that I would recommend this with reservations to particular people whose reading inclinations I know, certainly, with the information of also, there's kind of X, Y, and Z types of content here that are challenging. Had I been reading this in like a public place, there are points in this book where even I would have felt like slightly uncomfortable based on some of the content in this book, and that is something that would affect my recommendation in a very real way. And my 5-star review system that Heather inspired me to go back and look at, again, in several of the star rating levels, makes mention of whether or not I would recommend a book. 4 out of the 5 numbers of stars for me have something to do with whether I would recommend a book. And this one, it's Samuel Delany. It's a very well-known book. It's been in publication for a very long time. There is tremendous merit to this book, but I feel very complicatedly about recommending a book like this. And that is not something that a star rating could say. And it's the kind of book that if you go on Goodreads or any site like that and you read the reviews of this book, There are a lot of 5-star and a lot of 1-star. It's very polarizing. And the particular kinds of content that it includes and the ways in which those content is dealt with has a lot to do, I think, with those disparities, right? So star rating systems, I think, at least insofar as I've attempted to maintain some sort of consistency with one that I came up with for myself, can't communicate, at least not fully, what I want to communicate in a book review, which has a lot to do with whether I'd recommend a book, why, and to whom. And I think that I need to ramble for a while, whether in type or in this format, to really get those thoughts across. And I really like booktube content that gets into those reasonings and those details, right? Because a star rating for me says, perhaps it ultimately just says, whether someone liked a book or not. I don't presume for a second that my 5-star system is in any way unique or original. It's basically some variation of it was shit to it was fabulous, broken into 5 levels, right? Which is, I think, what everybody's 1 to 5-star rating is in one way or another. It doesn't convey what I think is useful, because is it useful? And this is maybe where I'll end, cognizant of my rambling. Is knowing whether I liked a book or didn't like a book interesting or useful if that comes with no further information as to why, right? Or very minimal additional information as to why? I don't think it necessarily is. If it is, I think it would have to be in the context of knowing my reading habits and knowing, for example, if you might tend to like books that I like or tend to not like books that I like, right? So, yeah. I have no good concluding thoughts here, just to say that I think Heather's video was really interesting, and so you should go and check it out. Tell me what you think about star ratings. If you use a website that involves star rating your books, let me know in the comments if you have a 5-star system or some other breakdown, of stars. I think most of them are 1 to 5, but let me know. Let me know if you find these useful, because I've been just thinking about whether I do or not, and I'm still somewhat indecisive. Thank you so much for watching, and thanks to Heather for sharing some very thought-provoking ideas. I wish everyone good night, and I will see you again soon.